Today, we are going to discuss a very important fundamental topic in economics. It is popularly known as the basic economic problems. Basic economic problems. You all know that every human being lives an economic life. In other words, every human being has a set of economic behaviors. We use the word economic to mean that every human being, almost in every moment in his or her life, is forced to make choices. Of course, the term choice is easily understandable. In front of you, you have got your options, and there, from them, you make a selection. Although you do not realize this, whether you accept this or not, whether you can understand this or not, this is the truth. So this fact of life, which we cannot question, which we cannot avoid, becomes the central theme or core substance of economics. When we play different roles in our life, you are a student, I am a teacher. You have to carefully decide how you use your time, because you have to divide, allocate, split your time in various activities. So the same is true when the time, the resource time, is applied by a person like me teaching. So we know very well that the resources we have at any given point in time are inadequate to satisfy all our desires. So we have to set priorities. We have to decide what has to be done at that moment. So moment by moment, we have this issue to deal with. So we call this thing, this behavior, making choices, comparing benefits and costs, and knowing very well that we have to sacrifice some other thing we prefer choosing, understanding that reality that sacrifices are a part of our life. All these justify that we all have an economic behavior. Therefore, human beings make choices. Of course, different people make different choices. Further, even an individual person will make different choices from like time to time. So it's very difficult to interpret each of these choices of each and every human being. Economists who have developed scientific and systematic methods to study human behavior have classified all our choices that we make under three categories. Three categories. So all the choices you have made, your family makes, I have made, my family has made, or each and every human being has made, can be put under one of these three categories. These three basic categories are called in economics the basic economic problems. Basic economic problems. When I explain this, I will give you opportunities to think of yourself and your family and its members, how you all have worked to find solutions for those three problems. And you will realize soon, when you try finding solutions for these problems, you also contribute to develop solutions for these three basic economic problems for others. For an example, you have decided to get education. So you have decided to do A-levels in English medium. So you have chosen this subject, economics. So that is your choice. So what is my choice? I have decided to be a teacher in English medium for A-levels. So I teach economics. So now here, my choice and your choice, there is a coordination. So likewise, there are mechanisms in the society like this. We know we have to make choices. For an example, choosing a profession is a very important choice that I have made. And choosing or deciding to do A-levels also is a very important choice you have made. So now as a result of the choices you have made and I have made, here we are. So this is how the choices that we make work. So that's the point. Okay, please get the tutorial. Turn to page number. They actually cover in the final part of this tutorial, the ending part. Yes, turn to page number 58. Page number 58. Basic economic problems. Okay. I told you economists manage to categorize all the choices we make, human beings make, under three categories. So look at this picture. Start from the top. It's there in your tube, right? You can see here unlimited human wants. And those unlimited human wants are attempted to be satisfied with limited resources. So we face the problem now. Scarcity. This is a universal problem, a fact of life, a condition that we all have to accept and adapt when we live. Because of scarcity, here we have to do something. Choices. Choices. So now we must make choices. Economists have classified these choices under three categories. What and how much is to be produced? This is number one. How is to be produced? It's number two. And for whom is to be produced? This is number three. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Every society, every member of every society must decide on what to do, what to buy, what to eat, whatever. So, for an example, your choice, you chose econ. It's this type. What to? So you decide on your side, consumption. I want to study econ. Right? So this is your what choice. Then how? How means how to produce something. Now we can't do physical classes. So at the moment we are doing online classes. It's an example. How to do it. How do we what we do? Right? How we do what we do. Then for whom? Okay. For an example, I don't do classes for single medium students. I don't do. And I can't teach biology or physics. So I teach for those who want to attend and willing and able to pay or willing to participate into my classes, for whom is to be produced. You see that? So all the choices you make can be categorized under one of these three basic economic problems. 1, 2, 3. What to produce? Of course, we had what and how much is to be produced. That is number one. Second, how to produce. Third, for whom is to be produced. So what and how much, how, and for whom. They are the three basic economic problems. Okay. So every society must have an economic system to solve these basic economic questions. Now listen. Every human being faces these situations. So suppose this is you, and this is common for every human being. So it's a someone else. He also has these basic problems. Okay, so then what do? You understand now both. They understand, okay, they have to work together. For that, they create a system. They create a system so that their decisions and choices can be coordinated. That is called an economic system. So they collectively, willingly participate and become the members of an economic system, because each one of these people want to satisfy their basic needs and solve basic economic problems, and they understand other human beings also have basic economic problems, so now they work together. This is why we have governments, this is why we have business firms, this is why we have families, households. So when you look at the big picture of this society, you will understand this. Each of these societies, each of these nations operate as economic systems. Everybody, every firm, every government, every nation faces these three basic economic problems. So they want solutions. They have to decide what gets produced, what goods and services that the economy must produce and how much, and how to produce the chosen commodities, and how to distribute the produced output. So these three basic economic problems require efficient, fair, and competitive solutions. So societies have economic systems, and these systems function with the main objective of solving the basic economic questions. All right. Turn to the next page. Okay, now I'm going to explain the three basic economic problems. There are three. This is the first one. Okay, pay attention. Scarcity. Of course, this is the central economic question. Although these three basic economic problems have solutions, although human beings can find solutions for these three basic economic problems, there are no solutions for the universal problem called scarcity. It's a fact of life that we can't change. So scarcity does not have solutions. Okay, because of the scarcity, we understand all goods and services cannot be produced. Now look at our country. Do you think that our country can produce all the goods and services that it wants to consume? No, no. It has to decide with the resources and technology and other resources available. Its members have to decide what goods and services that should be produced here. The goods we can produce here, we produce. And goods we cannot produce here, we buy. And whether we produce or buy, of course, there are some wants of many people can never be satisfied fully. So all goods and services cannot be produced. Then what? A choice must be made for the goods that must be produced with the available resources. Choice has to be made. All goods, all services cannot be produced because of scarcity. So we have to decide, okay, then what? What goods and services that should be produced? This is what we call, write down in big letters, what and how much is to be produced. What and how much is to be produced. What and how much is to be produced. This is generally called the first basic economic problem. What and how much is to be produced. This involves the government decision to produce more of or provide more of healthcare, or increasing its military power, a business firm's decision to diversify into another industry, a household's decision to buy a new car, a student who has become a graduate wants to do another degree postgraduate. So all these decisions are examples for this basic economic problem called what and how much is to be produced. Second one, again we start from the same point, scarcity. Because of scarcity, there will be many methods to produce a certain product. Yes, these scarce resources have alternative uses, and as a result, they can be combined in different ways. One particular product can be produced in different ways using different input combinations. For an example, when one firm uses more of labor to produce a particular product, the same product is produced by another firm using more of capital, where the first firm is called labor intensive business as it uses more of labor. The second firm is called capital intensive as it uses more of capital. So likewise, different products can be produced using different proportions, different combinations, and even different inputs. Each of the firms should decide and must make a choice for the most efficient method of production. Most efficient method of production to combine these scarce resources. Most efficient method of production. A firm, now suppose you start a business and you have started a business that produces textiles. So you have to decide what is the technology. Do you do job production, batch production, flow production, what? Then how many machines do you need? And these machines should be designed in which way? So how the product has to be produced? There you will definitely consider whether that chosen method lowers your cost or not. Normally, the firms prefer choosing the most economical or least cost method of production. So least cost means that firm uses inputs that lowers the firm's cost of production. Right? Okay, so that is what we call write down how is to be produced. How is to be produced. So how is not about choosing a product. How is about choosing the method of production. So this is the second basic economic problem. Number 3, same starting point, scarcity. Now I'm going to explain the third basic economic problem. Because of scarcity, all wants of everyone cannot be satisfied fully. We know it. Look at you, look at your family. Can you say that all your wants have been satisfied fully? No. No, we can't say. We can't make that statement. So, a choice must be made for an effective, fair distribution method to make sure the parties who want the products most will get them. So now there is a competition in the society for the products that have been produced. You want to buy it, I want to buy it, another person wants to buy it, or another party doesn't want that. That party wants something else. Now what? There has to be a mechanism in the society. The limited output that has been produced must be provided to the parties who mostly want it. Mostly want it. So a choice must be made for an effective, fair distribution method. So then, how does the society decide who gets what? Which means this. Markets, for an example, in markets there are products, and products that are traded in markets have prices. So if you can pay the price of the product and you want to buy the product and can pay the price, you can have that product. Sometimes you say, I have money, but I don't want it. Then you don't buy it. Then that's another scenario. You want it, but you don't have the necessary purchasing power to pay. You want it, but you cannot have it. Why? You don't have the purchasing power. So in markets, for an example, distribute products considering people's purchasing power. Do you have the purchasing power? Do you want it, right? Okay. Do you have the purchasing power? Yes. Then this is yours. If you say, if I ask, okay, do you want this? Yes. Do you have the purchasing power to buy it? No. Then this is not yours. So this is where we have to discuss like how the limited income is distributed so that those who have got the income can buy the product. Those who don't have that income cannot buy the product. And this is where the government should interfere, and government should think of the poor people, and government should find a mechanism to distribute the products for the poor. Because they want the product, but they can't pay. This is what we call, for whom is to be produced, the third basic economic problem. For whom is to be produced. So the first one, you wrote what? What and how much is to be produced. Number one. Number two, how is to be produced. Number three, for whom is to be produced. For those who could not write this is the third basic economic problem I'm explaining. The first one, at the end of, we had a similar picture, but the description was slightly different. Number one, you need to write what and how much is to be produced. Number two, you have how is to be produced. And number three, for whom is to be produced. For whom is to be produced. Good. Okay. Now, there are different ways that you have started thinking of these three problems. You say, oh, right? Some student would say, okay, there are three basic economic problems. I know their names. What and how much, how and for whom. It's a basic skill that you want to develop. When someone asks the names of the three basic economic problems, you can write. Okay, some others want to describe it. Okay, what is meant by what and how much is to be produced? It's like every society has to decide what goods and services it should produce. How means choosing a method of production to produce those products. For whom means how that limited output be distributed among the members of the society. Okay. And to that mode of thinking, I want you to add one thing. That is, although we listed them as number 1, 2, 3, all these basic economic problems are related. Basic economic problems are related. It's like you have solved simultaneous equations where the value of x is given in terms of y, value of y is given in terms of z, and value of z is given in terms of x and y, for an example. Then when you solve simultaneous equations, eventually you get value for x, y, z. And when you change basic certain equation of x, it will affect y and it will affect z. So it's here too, it's like that. When a society decides, okay, what gets produced, it has to think of, okay, how to produce it and why are we producing it? Will there be a adequate demand for it? So for whom is to be produced? So all these three decisions are interconnected, and each of these basic economic problems affects other problems, and the solutions developed for each of the problems affects the solutions of other problems. So that's the basic idea of these basic economic problems. This is a very popular area, right? Both in, in class structures and very especially in the exams, right? So please make sure that you understood this well. Next, right? Get the tune. So we finished it, right? Now, page number 60. The nature of the three basic economic problems. You understood the names now, no? You all know the names. So now I'm going to explain what is really implied by these three names, connecting it with the problem of scarcity. It has already been explained, but now I'm going to use some specific words, okay, so that you can use those words for each of these basic economic problems, right? The nature of the three basic economic problems, right? You can see, you can write these three names on that flow chart. Three basic economic questions. Follow that order I have followed. First, write what and how much is to be produced. Second, how is to be produced. Third, for whom is to be produced. For whom is to be produced. What and how much is to be produced. How is to be produced. For whom is to be produced. For whom is to be produced. Right. Now, right, you can see something is happening. Now, you can't write on it. You can see I have given. So you have written what and how much here now. And now write that. Allocative problem. You need to write it here. For each of the problems, the second one I'm showing, you have to write it here. Okay, right. So what and how much is to be produced is called, under that, write down in big letters, allocative problem. Allocative problem. Right. Second one, how is to be produced, write down production, or you can call this technical problem. Production or technical problem. Please write the word technical as well. Production or technical problem. You can now understand that basic economic problems nature is different. When an economy decides what and how much is to be produced, it's about allocation. How to allocate, how to split, how to reserve, how to divide the limited resources among various industries to produce different products. But now the second one, Putta, how is to be produced? So how means finding a process of production method, technical, how to turn inputs into outputs, production. And finally, you can guess for whom is to be produced. We call this problem distributive problem. So that is not about allocation of resources or to turn resources into goods and services. It's about how to distribute the produced output among the members of the society. So now there has to be a mechanism. So that mechanism will decide who gets what and how much. Distributive problem. Allocative problem, production problem, distributive problem. So the nature of the three basic economic problems. All right, excellent. So this is done now. Now I'm going to explain each of these problems, and I want you to do this now. Please, in front of this, what and how much is to be produced, put number 1 and circle it. What and how much is to be produced. Then turn to page number 61. And here you can see the second topic. Put number 2 and circle and write how is to be produced. And as you go to the next page, you have the third and the last basic economic problem. For whom is to be produced? For whom is to be produced? All right. So now this is the task at hand, which means we need to understand each of these basic economic problems. Right. First one, what and how much is to be produced? Okay, this is problem number 1. You listen to my explanation first. It has 2 types of choices involved into one decision. That is, what goods and services to produce and how much of each of them to produce. For an example, when the economy decides, okay, military, healthcare, education, food and beverages, likewise, then the economy should decide, okay, more of healthcare, less of military, more of housing, less of schools, something like that. Giving more priority to some industries and some products, and giving a lower or less priority to some other industries and some other products. And this priority may change from society to society and time to time. Okay, then pay attention. So we understand when the society decides to produce one good, Okay, suppose we decide to produce more of food and beverages. So we produce. That decision indicate that we have to sacrifice the production of some other good. Since we produce more of food and beverages, we may have to sacrifice healthcare production. That's the way. So we produce one and we can't produce something else. So that's the way it is. Now wait. Pay attention. Okay. Now I have made it more specific. Producing more of one good. Suppose the society has decided to increase the production of food and beverages. So food and beverage production increased. So now, since we are increasing the production of one product category, definitely we now can produce less of another product like healthcare products. It's going down. So it's understandable. This is what that happens. So it's why when one particular product's production is increased, the production of some other product goes down. Scarcity. When you allocate more scarce resources to produce more of one product, you cannot have the same resources used in the production of some other product. So more of one means less from the other. Very good. Very good. You can write down the note later. Now you listen. Oh. Suppose a society manages to solve this problem. Solve in the sense, it's always the problem is being solved. You can't say it has been solved. No. So the solution to this problem is generally called resource allocation because it is the allocative problem. Scarce resources of the country, including natural resources, capital resources, human resources, should be distributed. This is why the education system has been organized in such a way. We all are human resources of the country. Depending upon our choices, we decide the subjects and various courses to be specialized. And as a result of my specialization, I have become a teacher. You may be a manager, banker. So yours, we all are limited resources of the country. So I have gone into education industry. So depending upon your choices, you also would move into certain industries. There are doctors, there are pilots, there are engineers, there are actors, authors, because each of these professions is quite important because they deliver certain products that members of the society wants. So that is what we call, look at the big picture. Look at the big picture. Resource allocation. So the solution to this problem is called resource allocation. And sometimes government interferes. When the government realizes that some of the high priority sectors of the country do not have adequate resources allocated, then the government will use its regulatory powers and its policies, rules, regulations, taxes, and other kinds of methods to take resources away from other industries and put into those high priority sectors. Then we call it reallocation because initial market allocation was kind of inefficient and government was not happy with it. And governments, as the policy maker of the country, decides to do it again. You can study this when we introduce the government. So until then, you know that what and how much is to be produced is an allocative problem, and its solution is called resource allocation. Very good. You listen to me, we can write down the note later, right? Next. Oh, suppose we have found the best solution. We produce, or the society produces, the most wanted products. Resources are not wasted to produce unwanted products. And the optimum output level is produced in each of these industries. So whatever that is demanded is supplied, not more, not less. Products that have been demanded, supplied. We call this attainment allocative efficiency. It's one of the targets in solving this basic economic problem, reaching allocative efficiency, which means the scarce resources have not been wasted in doing unwanted things or in producing the products that are not wanted or not demanded. Most wanted products in the right quantities have been produced by the proper allocation of scarce resources. This is what we call allocative efficiency. Allocative efficiency. Finally, how do we know that allocative efficiency has been attained? How do we know? For each of the industries, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, food and beverages, whatever, price of the product must reflect and represent the marginal cost, which means there has to be a nice correlation in between price and the marginal, means here extra cost. Whenever there is an extra cost, that should be covered with that price, not more, not less. Price is equal to marginal cost. P equals MC. Then we know the first basic economic problem, that is what and how much is to be produced, has been solved with allocative efficiency attainment. If price is not equal to MC, then it indicates allocative inefficiency. Then it indicates we are either producing more of something, more than the society really wants, so wasting, or we are producing something less than the amount society wants, not giving enough resources so that the demand, the most demanded products are not supplied. Overproduction, underproduction, respectively. That is called allocative inefficiency. All right. Okay, now we should write down that note. Okay, right. Okay, so turn to page number, right, what and how much is to be produced. Right, I read the note, you follow me. Okay, so this is the first basic economic problem. I asked you to put number 1. What and how much is to be produced? There aren't enough resources in the economy to produce all goods and services. There aren't enough resources to produce all goods and services society desires. Because of scarcity, no country can produce every good it wants in the quantity it would like. So an economy has to decide what goods and services to produce and how much. what and how much. Okay, before we write something here, we'll read the other paragraphs. The production of one good, the production of one good requires the sacrifice made in the production of another good. The production of more of one good requires the production of less of some other product. This therefore implies the need for a choice for the allocation of scarce resources. So write down here. Economies aim at attaining allocative efficiency by solving this problem so that the most wanted products are produced in optimum amounts. Optimum amounts. And please write down here allocative efficiency condition. Write down price equals marginal cost. And P equals MC. Please write down this. Otherwise, when you later see this as a part of another topic or something, you will not be able to understand this clearly. Economies aim at attaining allocative efficiency by solving this problem so that the most wanted products are produced in optimum amounts. An allocative efficiency condition, price is equal to marginal cost, P equals MC. So please understand the solution here. Most wanted products are produced in optimum amounts. That is called allocative efficiency. Resources have been allocated to produce the most wanted products. Hope you all now captured the meaning of allocative efficiency. Right, oh my dear. Finished writing. Price equals marginal cost and P equals MC. Learn how to write meaningful sentences rather than cramming or memorizing your teacher's notes. You study the content of the note and the style of it. Understand how the words have been combined so that meaningful ideas are communicated. Because in the exam, you need to do this. In the exam, you have to write this. So I have just written one sentence. So it says what allocative efficiency is. Most wanted products are produced in optimum amounts. That is what we call allocative efficiency. And where have I written it? I have written it under the basic economic problem of what and how much is to be produced. And what is the condition? Price equals marginal cost. All right. It's not yet over. You should go to page number 61 now. Right. I should give you examples now. Look at this. So deciding to produce what and how much. A society may decide to produce consumer goods or investment goods. Or some products are produced for exporting. Some other products are produced for domestic consumption. Some products are civilian products. Some other products would be for military purposes. And we need education. So in the same way, we need healthcare. There should be rural roads and there should be expressways. There should be stadiums and harbors. And vocational training centers should exist. And social security systems should exist. There should be industrial zones to produce products, and there should be shopping malls to sell them. However, choices have to be made. What to produce? So write down some of these. Right. These are examples. You need to write that. If there's a table given, the next page, in the table, you need to write. So don't worry about the adequacy of the number of rows. You choose what you want to write and write. All right. I think the time is enough for you to write. Huh? I give you 30 seconds more, not more than that. Consumer goods, investment goods, products for domestic consumption, products for export, civilian products, military products, healthcare, education, rural roads, expressways, harbors, stadiums, vocational training centers, social security systems, shopping malls, industrial zones. So different individuals, groups, institutions, government, their decisions on producing these goods will eventually decide what gets produced and how much. All right, time's up. So the next one, how is to be produced? How is to be produced? This is the second problem. You listen, I'm going to deliver another explanation like in the previous case. So first I explain, you listen, then we write down the note. Right. The second problem is about choosing a production method. It can be alternatively interpreted as combining resources. For an example, a method of production is what? How inputs are turned into outputs. So which inputs and how much of each of these inputs is needed in this process, depending upon the production method that a firm chooses. The firm has to use different amounts, different combinations of different inputs. Suppose a garment factory 10 years ago, it initiated its operations and it had only few machineries. It had a massive labor force. But now it managed to purchase sophisticated machinery, heavy equipments, and as a result, it does not need a larger amount of labor now. So you can understand, since the method of production changed, the needed inputs and their amounts also get changed. Simple point, right? Okay, then the firm has to decide a production technique, which means ratio of input mix. For an example, there is an engineering idea here behind every product. Suppose the manufacturing process of a smartphone. So different inputs need to be mixed here. For an example, how many labor hours needed? Let's say to produce a smartphone, 5 labor hours are needed. Then how many produced circuits needed? Say circuits. Let's say 25 circuits needed. And what about electricity? To produce one firm, like how many electricity consumption? Let's say 50 units of whatever. And a particular material, plastic or whatever, how many units needed? Let's say 3 units. Likewise, production engineers know which inputs are needed to produce a product and how to combine them. So the product is simply a value addition. Simply a value addition. Simply a value addition. Ratio of input mix. Next, using more of one input means using less of another input. Simple. Suppose firm wants to use more of one input, then it has limited funds to afford. So it might use less of another input. Next, I told you that this problem is about production or technical. Solving this problem is called the production. Or we can call it, of course, when we solve it well, I combine both, productive efficiency. Productive efficiency means using all the resources we have. We call it full employment. And we say it full production. We use all the resources we have got and we produce the largest volume of output that we can produce. And at the same time, least cost and least wastage. I think it makes sense. Productive efficiency is that do the best and the maximum that you have, but with what you have. Make sure the cost is minimum, wastage is minimum. Everything depends on the method of production that has been chosen. If it's a wrong method you're using, you may not use all the resources, or you will never get the maximum production capacity tapped. And the cost would be definitely high, and definitely there would be wastages. Right? So it's like finding the cheaper way, cheapest method of production, most economical. So this productive efficiency, look at this, there's an equation, price equals lowest average cost. So how do we know productive efficiency has been attained by a firm? Find out its cost. Has the firm reached the lowest possible cost to produce that product? Has? Yes, then it's productive efficiency attainment. If the cost is not reached yet to the minimum level, then the productive efficiency is yet to be attained. Or at the moment, the firm is productively inefficient. So now you can see the difference between this and the previous basic economic problems. Right? Oh, now we need to write this down. Page number 61. How is to be produced? How is to be produced? So this is the second problem. Please pay attention, Pute. How is to be produced? Resources are limited, and hence resources must be mixed, combined, and used in ways where there are no wastages in producing the products. Most goods and services can be produced in a variety of different production methods, with each method using more of some resources and less of others. This question is an issue of getting more output from available inputs without a waste and least possible cost. Different methods of production are available depending upon the nature of resources are used, the amount of resources are used, and the type of technology. So it's like nature of resources, amount of those resources, and type of technology. Right. So you should write down here. Economies aim at attaining productive efficiency so that the products can be produced in the least cost way by ensuring full employment and full production. So, with a minimum wastage. With a minimum wastage. And when I say productive efficiency, please write down this condition as well. Price equals minimum average cost, which means minimum cost per unit. P equals lowest cost per unit. P equals lowest average cost. Some says lowest average total cost. Reaching the lowest cost is kind of an experiment. It's very difficult to know whether it's the lowest cost or not. A firm will realize by making some small changes into the current production and see whether the cost is going down or going up. If the cost is going up, which means the firm has already reached the minimum level. First, cost is going down further, which means the firm has not yet reached the lowest cost possible cost. So all these are aims, right? It doesn't mean that these are simple or easy targets. Finish writing, my kids. So read that sentence. Economies aim at attaining productive efficiency so that the products can be produced in the least cost way, which means economical way, by ensuring full employment and full production with a minimum wastage. So make sure your sentences are very meaningful, right? It should carry some coherent meaning, some specific meaning, right? So just practice it, practice it. Okay, very good. All right, finish writing. Good. Then we need to write examples. Yeah. Look at this. Examples. A firm can decide to use more of labor or may decide to use less of capital. Another firm wants to use more of capital, so it now uses less of labor. When one firm uses more of technology, another firm prefers using or has to use less, more of technology. It has to use more of manual labor. Another firm uses less of capital, whereas an agricultural business may use more of land. So when some firms use more of skilled labor and less of unskilled labor, some other firms use more of unskilled labor so that they don't have to pay them more, and very few skilled labor. When one firm uses more of fixed factors so that it can use less of variable factors, another firm uses more of variable factors and less of fixed factors. Fixed factors are the factors, whether you do production or not, you have to have them. But variable factors you have to hire only when you do production. Okay, 20 seconds. Don't write all, pick your points and just write. 20 seconds. So you understand? Did you understand that these examples are different from the previous examples? Did you understand? This is how to produce. Here you don't have the names of the products. Instead, you have the names of the inputs. Do you see it clearly? You should have. Great. Okay, good. Righto. Good. So now we have finished two basic economic problems. So we have finished our discussion on the first two basic economic problems. The first one was what and how much is to be produced. The second one was how is to be produced. This is the third and the last basic economic problem. It's only three problems you need to understand. That's it. And I told you the importance of this section. Very, very important. Okay. So if you can tell me and yourself that you understood this, it's great. Okay. Right. So page number 62, for whom is to be produced. Right. Putala, pay attention. Huh? For whom is to be produced? For whom is to be produced? The third and the last basic economic problem. So it's basically who should get what and how much. Who should get what? Which means how the limited output be distributed among the members of the society. Perhaps there is a car your family owns, but your neighbors do not have cars. It is because your family could afford a car, they don't have that capacity. So how the limited output be distributed? So best example, right? Okay, next, when one party gets a unit of output, the same unit of that output cannot be obtained by another party. When you get one laptop, your friend can't buy the same unit of laptop. They can buy a laptop, but a different laptop. But manufacturers have fixed or a constant capacity to produce laptop at a given point in time. So when laptops are, let's say, exported by UK to one country more, which means it has less laptops to be distributed to another country. Big picture. Next, when one party gets more of one good, another party gets less of the other good, less of the good. So this is what that happens in like rich are getting rich, rich and rich. So the difference between the rich and the poor widening. So this is a kind of a problem that every society faces today. So you say it's unfair. Unfair. Right. So it's a problem related to equitable distribution of income, because income distribution is not fair. Since income is unequally distributed, goods and services would never be distributed equally. It's a very complicated and very sensitive topic. You know now, the problem of whom is to be produced is a problem related to output or income distribution. Individuals, families, businesses, governments, nations with high incomes can afford larger volumes of outputs compared to lower income capacities, such as poor people, poor countries, poor governments, those. Next, here the targeted outcome, the best solution for this problem is equality or equitable income distribution, where there are no extreme disparities. Of course, there are disparities in income distribution. You can't have income distributed equally all the time. No. Even then, now just imagine you are a hard-working family. You can see lazy people around your area. So do you want the income to be equally distributed now? No. That is also not fair. However, we believe extreme or large disparities should not exist. And finally, how do we know that that's equitable or fair distribution? The output must be distributed to the party who mostly wants it. So it's a very important point, right? Mostly wants. It means different things for different people. If you are wealthy, you say, I want it. Because you have the ability to pay for it. I want it. You demand it. But a poor person would say, when the poor family has when a rich family has, and the members of a rich family have many smartphones and many laptops, it's very difficult for us to buy even one small basic smartphone for my child's online education. So you can see that family wants it. But in the market system, there isn't such a mechanism so that they also will get a phone. So this is why, again, government interfere. This is why we have charitable institutions, so that the market does not favor the poor. So this is definitely related to poverty. This is definitely relates to unequal income distribution. Okay, great. So we should write down the note now. Okay. Problem number 3. For whom is to be produced? Since resources are limited, the output that is produced by them also is limited. Since the output is limited, it can't be given to all who wants it. The economy therefore must decide who gets what. This therefore implies the need for a distribution mechanism for the limited output among the members of the society. When one party gets more of one product, less units of that product are available for another party. This problem is usually solved by distributing the output to the party who mostly wants it. therefore is ready to pay for the product. Next, we'll come back to that sentence and write it later. This problem is usually solved by distributing the mostly wanted. I read it. This basic economic problem is about income distribution. Such people's ability to pay depends on their incomes they have. Right. Now we'll write down economies aim at attaining equality where there are no extreme disparities in income distribution, so that the income and output are distributed among members of the society in a fair and desirable way. We don't have any equation to describe this equality because it's hard to quantify. Please write down. You can write down, put the economies aim at attaining equality where there are no extreme disparities in income distribution, so that the income and output are distributed among the members of the society in a fair and desirable way. So I'm sure that you understood this problem. I'm sure you see it differently from the first two basic economic problems. Sure. You know the problem of what and how much. You know the problem of how. You know the problem of for whom. You know that these three problems are about three things, but they are connected. Very good. Excellent. Please learn well, my dear kids. Learn well. I have organized many things for you, although the priority is given these days to 2021 students, because you have relatively more time compared to them. I have many things like planned, and they will be delivered to you in the months to come, right? So it's make sure you cover the basics well. I have activated some videos even for future lessons, right? Before we start, I'm going to activate them so that you can watch them and get an idea and participate, right? Many things, lots of exams with instant feedback, past paper question videos. Because doing classes online mean using technology for education. Okay. So I clear, right? Is it all right? Good. So please complete the next two paragraphs with this. Higher the income a person earns, higher will be the purchasing power. And as a result, he will get a larger portion of the produced output. Conversely, lower the income a person earns, lower will be the purchasing power, and as a result, he will get a smaller portion of the produced output. So this is why we have rich people and poor people side by side. This is a normative concept, which means you can't scientifically bring all these individuals to one income or level or social status, because some can't dwell there. So the individuals must work hard and use what they have very carefully to get what they don't have. Hmm? Right. Yes, we covered the target we wanted to cover.